Howdy everyone, long time no see. Sorry it's been so long since the last time I posted you guys. I promise I didn't have the intention of stepping away for so long, but I just ended up not being home very much in the last month, so apologies if you were looking forward to some content and I wasn't there to deliver it to you. But today, I thought an easy way to kind of ease back into the whole YouTube game was talking about the box office report. Now, I don't even remember the last time I ran through one of these. There's a lot to go over here, but I'm just going to keep it focused to this previous weekend. And we're starting off with a bit of a doozy here. We got Five Nights at Freddy's repeating at number 1 this week in the box office, except it took a huge downturn, 76% down from its opening weekend. Now, it's inevitable that a major release is gonna see a downturn weekend over weekend the longer that it's at the box office, but typically if you get it below 60%, that's really good. If you get it between 60 and 65, that's also pretty good. 65 to 70, okay, you're starting to be on the high end there. That's not really very good. And above 70 is terrible, so being down 76% weekend over weekend is horrible for Five Nights at Freddy's. But look, this movie still ended up making way more than it ever should have, or that it has any business making. I think last weekend it opened to like $80 million on a $20 million budget, and not just that, what makes it even more impressive is it was released on Paramount Plus on the same day that it released in theaters, so people actually knew that it was going to be home, but still went to the theaters to go see this movie anyway, which isn't what we've seen typically from day-and-date releases. Usually, if given the option, people are going to choose to watch it at home because, I mean, if you're already subscribed to the service and you don't want to leave the house, why would you? But overall, Five Nights at Freddy's is still a gigantic success. It's made $215 million off of a budget of $20 million. I mean, yeah, you got to include marketing there, but still, it's making so much money right now, but I think it had a couple of things working against it here in its second weekend. First off, it was released on Halloween weekend, and Halloween's over now. Maybe people don't want to go see a scary movie, or everyone that wanted to go see Five Nights at Freddy's went on that first weekend, but now it's Christmas time, baby. But you know what I mean. If people wanted to go see a horror movie last weekend, they had a choice between this or the Exorcist movie that came out weeks ago that was not particularly well received. I mean, neither was Five Nights at Freddy's, but you had a lot of people that have been clamoring for a Five Nights at Freddy's movie, apparently. I completely underestimated the fan base behind the game, and all of those people wanted to go see it opening weekend, but whenever you open it on Halloween weekend, you're not gonna get a whole lot of people that don't know Five Nights at Freddy's to come in its second weekend. And the movie was not well received critically. I watched it here at home, and I actually didn't really like the movie all that much either. I actually really enjoyed the first 30 minutes of the movie, which, from what I understand, is the premise of the game, but I think that they just got way too complicated with what they were trying to do in the story. They're absolutely gonna do a sequel to this movie. I mean, whenever you make over $200 million and you spend $20 million, you're gonna try to make some more. But yeah, between it not being very well received and then again opening up on that Halloween weekend and not giving itself enough space between the release date and the Halloween for more people to come in hoping to watch a good horror flick, I think between those two components here, it kind of explains why this movie dropped so much in its second weekend. But then moving on to number 2, we have Taylor Swift's The Eras Tour in its fourth weekend, racking in another $13.5 million. And that was only down about 12% weekend over weekend. I'm not sure what the budget is on this, but it's a concert movie, so I can't imagine it cost a whole lot to make. Maybe tops $10 million. It's racked in $231 million worldwide. I don't know what cut of this is going to Taylor, but she is a very rich woman after this year. Now, I haven't gone out and seen this movie myself, even though I am a Taylor Swift fan, but I think that this movie is good because it actually gave a lot of folks a reason to come back to the theater. You know, if you're a Taylor Swift fan, you didn't have tickets to go see the Eras Tour that were like $700 a ticket, then you were given the chance to experience it inside of a theater. And from everything that I've seen on social media, people are taking every opportunity to treat it like it is a concert, which I don't have any issue with at all. As long as you're not disrupting the theaters around you, it's free game in my opinion. So yeah, Taylor Swift continues to kill it. It's going to be interesting seeing what the Beyonce concert film does in December. I am very, very curious to see if that makes as much money as Taylor Swift. I know that Taylor Swift is bigger in terms of streams, but I mean, you can never doubt Beyonce. She has a huge fan base that are going to show up for her, so, we'll have to wait and see there. And coming in at number 3 is Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, in its third weekend making almost about $7 million. And, I'm kind of being pulled in two different directions as to the performance of this movie, because on one hand, the movie cost $200 million. It's made 119 through 3 weeks. This movie is a flop. It is losing a lot of money. But on the flip side, we have to remember that this is an Apple TV movie, and it's going to be on streaming, I think, in December, maybe. And the way that I've heard it described is that its theatrical run is almost like a marketing tool to get people to sign up for Apple TV to watch it later, because it is a 3.5 hour movie, and not a lot of people want to go to the theater for 4 hours whenever you include trailers. I know for me, obviously I love movies. 4 hours was a lot for me, and this is a hard movie to do 4 hours in a theater for, okay? It was a big ask, because this movie, for like 2/3 of that 3.5 hour runtime, is depressing. But I think the angle for Apple here is that they're hoping it brings people into Apple TV Plus, or whatever they're calling the streaming service. My question to that would be, how many people do you expect to sign up for your streaming network for a 3.5 hour drama? I don't know. You're going to get a lot of cinephiles in there who love Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, and it is a fantastic movie. I saw it. I probably will never watch it again because it is just so depressing, but it's an excellent movie. But whenever you're trying to get people to sign up for your streaming service, I feel like you need something a bit more broader that can appeal to a lot of folks. And this is a very focused historical drama. Call me crazy, I don't really see a whole lot of people signing up for your streaming service with that, or at least not enough to make up for the loss that you're receiving in the theaters. However, it is better than a lot of other streaming services that hand... the perfect example is The Irishman with Martin Scorsese over at Netflix. That movie cost about $200 million to make, I believe. Netflix, I don't think, really ran it in theaters, or if they did, it was extremely limited, making $120 million on the side. On top of putting it on your streaming service before the end of the year is absolutely the route to go. I think that Netflix is taking notes right now. Last year with Glass Onion, they were definitely kicking themselves that they didn't leave it in theaters longer. For the future, I do think that this is the approach that streaming services are going to take here whenever it comes to their major films. They're going to release them in theaters and then use that as a tool to hopefully get people to sign up for their service in a couple months if they couldn't make it out. So yeah, it's like this tug of war for me. It's like, on one hand, obviously the film is losing money. If it was just a theatrical film, is it going to be worth it for Apple in the long term? We'll have to wait and see. And then at number 4, we have Priscilla, which is the movie about Priscilla Presley, who was, of course, married to Elvis. This movie was technically opened last weekend, but it was extremely limited. It finally opened wide this weekend, and it made about $5 million, which was a little bit over $3,700 per theater, which would have put it in the number 3 slot. But since it had fewer theaters than Killers of the Flower Moon, here it is at 4. And I don't believe this film was made for a whole lot of money. I want to say it was like in the ballpark of $20 million, which in the scope of movies is not very much nowadays. And making, $5 million here, I think it's a little higher worldwide. It's not bad. You don't expect to make a whole lot of money with a movie like this nowadays. You definitely would hope for a little bit more, but it was only in 1,300 theaters, and it is sort of a drama about Priscilla Presley, so I don't know what the interest is going to be like on that. I went and saw it this last weekend. That's another video. For the most part, I liked the movie. My theater was packed whenever I was there, so I think that's a testament to it probably would have made a lot more money had they opened it in like 2,000 more theaters like the other 3 films I talked about today. But for whatever reason, A24, the studio behind it, did not go for that, and they decided to make it, 1,300 screens. So I think it makes sense that we got the returns that we got here. Maybe it'll continue to see some audience members trickling in, but for me, it's a real head scratcher because the budget was $20 million. I feel like you could have made that up in at least its first 2 weekends if you were opening it wider. Now, I understand if it's in fewer theaters that the demand is going to be higher in those theaters. However, I mean, we're going to see this drop at least 50% weekend over weekend, so I'm not really quite sure what they're thinking here. This is probably going to take a loss for them, which is too bad because, I mean, it's not a bad movie. For me, I was like, slightly above middle of the road on it. I had a couple issues with it. Some components of it are fantastic, but yeah, it's a real head scratcher for me why A24 didn't open this in more theaters, to be perfectly honest. But that's everything that I wanted to talk about today with the box office report from this previous weekend. Have you seen any of these movies? What are your thoughts with some of the findings here? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it and you want to see more, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, y'all.